I would maybe ask a question, and this is a question that we are somewhat trying to answer, or we think that we have the answer. But still, is every century has its own art form, and last century we had photography and film. The first century where technology started to become an art form. And my question is, what will be the art form of the 21st century?
Sergiu Ardelean is a serial entrepreneur from Austria with a passion for pushing boundaries. He's the CEO and co-founder of Artivive, which is a startup venture founded in 2017 that fuses haptic and digital art with the captivating power of augmented reality. Artivive is the AR solution for artists and has the vision to change how art is created and consumed. Artivive has offices in Europe, the US, and China, and an amazing community of over 250,000 creatives spanning 190 countries. Artivive is collaborating with some of the most renowned museums and galleries in Vienna, Munich, San Francisco, Seoul, and Shanghai. You'll hear in the episode how the art scene is embracing augmented art to explore new dimensions of artistic expression. Prior to Artivive, Sergiu founded a highly successful augmented reality agency right in the heart of Vienna that served big names like Volkswagen and Audi, making waves in 42 countries around the world. Sergiu and I met at the Bold Unconference, a fantastic and inspiring event that the Austrian Chamber of Commerce hosted across 4 cities in Austria, including a stop in Linz for Ars Electronica. And I'm so excited to share our conversation with you today that started on a charter bus from Salzburg to Vienna, where I got to see postcards come to life with Artivive. I couldn't be more excited to have Sergiu on the show. In today's episode, you'll discover how to move AR beyond a gimmick, but as a medium to add value to enhance stories and experiences around art. You'll hear case studies about museums and independent artists using Artivive to bring artworks to life. Sergiu discusses how Artivive uses AI and machine learning and also shares his thoughts on the new Apple Vision Pro and how AR glasses will become more seamlessly integrated into our lives. Sergiu sees AI as a tool that can enhance human creativity and storytelling versus replace it, and that human creativity will always be needed. Sergiu believes that art will adapt and use new mediums as a mirror of society. He also asks, what will be the art form of the 21st century? Enjoy.
But have you ever thought, what if this is all just a dream?
Welcome to Creativity Squared. Discover how creatives are collaborating with artificial intelligence in your inbox, on YouTube, and on your preferred podcast platform. Hi, I'm Helen Todd, your host, and I'm so excited to have you join the weekly conversations I'm having with amazing pioneers in the space. The intention of these conversations is to ignite our collective imagination at the intersection of AI and creativity to envision a world where artists thrive.
Just a dream.
Sergiu, it is so wonderful to have you on the show. Welcome to Creativity Squared.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. I was looking forward the whole day to it.
Well, it's so good to have you. For our listeners and viewers, we met in Austria at the Bold Unconference that the Austrian Chamber of Commerce put together, and it was absolutely wonderful. Our guest, Walter, was also from the conference, and I'm so excited to hear all about Artivive today. But let's start with your origin story and how you ended up in Austria, because you're not native born like Walter is.
Exactly. That's a great question. So I was born in Romania, in Transylvania, actually. Also, like my last name, Ardelean, means Transylvanian. And during my high school, I started, doing graphics on the computer, and this was like the end of the 90s. And I fell in love with it. So I somehow decided this is what I want to study. This is what I want to do, in my life. And I started searching for universities in Romania. And back then, all the universities in Romania didn't have a website. So I had to travel around the country and find, the universities and see what they're offering. And it was very disappointing to see that none of the universities had anything, with multimedia and graphics. It was either design, that means that you're drawing and learning and studying design, or computers, so development, programming. And I was like, I don't want none. It's like, I want, be creative with technology, with computers. So then when I was in Bucharest, and this is a funny story that I want to tell you. I was, disappointed, and I was like, I don't know what to do, and I really want to do this. So I suppose I, want to go and study abroad. And I saw a phone booth. We had that back then, and in the phone booths, there were also the phone books where you'll find all the names of everybody with the phone numbers and the address. So I looked up at embassies, and Austria was pretty on the top. So I found out the address, went there. There was like this police guy, and he was like, "What do you want?" It was like, "I want to study in Austria." And it's like, "I have no idea. Go inside." And they somehow managed to get and to talk to the cultural attaché from the Austrian embassy. And he was like, "This is amazing. In Austria, we have more and more universities offering this. And there is a new one, which is in Upper Austria. And I think it's a good fit." So long story short, I landed on a train and went to the university, and they were like, "This is great. We have now the exams." And it was like, "Aha, interesting. You have exams." So I did that. And then afterwards, I also had an interview, and then was the moment that I learned that there were like 700, students wanted to grab one of the 70 seats that they had, like 70, spots for the year. And I was like, "Oh, I will not make it." It's like I didn't came prepared. They're also speaking German. But then I received a call after a few weeks, and they said, "Yeah, pack your things and come to Austria." And I thought that it'll be for the studying, and then I will go back home and then start my career there. But this happened 22 years ago, and I'm still here.
Well, I love that you landed in Austria, and it was from like the top of the phone book. Had there been another country, you could be in a totally different city or country, depending on which page you open to. So I love that.
It was funny because I thought that, if it works so well with Austria, why I shouldn't try with other countries. So I went to the German embassy and tried the same thing. And they were like, "Okay, it's, this is an embassy, that's not a university. So if you want to study in Germany, like find a way to study in Germany." So it was just Austria that was so open. And, I had the opportunity to talk to somebody who knew what's happening in Austria and helped me decide to go there or come here.
I love that. And from schooling in Austria to where you're at today as the CEO of Artivive, can you tell us your founder's story? Because what you're doing is so cool, and it's at the very cutting edge of art and augmented reality right now.
Yeah, of course, sure. It's the moment that I also came to Austria and decided to go on the creative path, I would say. I saw myself always as a creative, but also very much in love with technology. So back then in the 2000s, I didn't really find my fit. It was just when people were talking about if somebody or a company needs a website, or if emails are better than fax. So that was a time where I was creating digital artworks, if you can say this, and also fascinated of how you can be creative using different tools and software. So when I started studying, this was my focus, but the university also gave me a very holistic understanding of the technology and also how to develop the program, how systems are built. I also, learned to put hardware together. We also had film classes where we were acting and filming, and the same with audio. So I had a very holistic approach on everything that's multimedia, but also with a creative touch. And I think that was the ground for, what Artivive is today. Because when I came out of university, I had to sustain myself. My whole family still is in Romania. So I had to find a way to earn money. And the low-hanging fruit was marketing because it was creative. It was discovering technology, and it was well paid. So I started working at an agency, and I was a little bit disappointed. I worked there like for 2 years, that they weren't, really being at the state of the art, what I learned at the university, and they weren't applying it in marketing. And they tried from my position, it's like, hey, we could do this campaign and we could use this software. That was also the rise of Flash websites, where it was like I would say the first attempt of the metaverse, where you could go in a website and have an experience and entertainment there. So I didn't really had the path at the agency that I was looking for. And with a friend, with Clemens, we decided to somehow build our own agency. He was already doing something in this direction, and he had like a technology developed together with Sony, where they could produce en masse CDs, but with a code inside. And with this code, we could personalize the CDs. So we had the idea to create the CDs like direct marketing. You imagine that, you receive a CD with the mail, and you have a digital content on it, which is also personalized. And again, this was back in the 2000s, so CDs were cool. and because we started doing that, we somehow, and also with the amazing skills of Clemens to sell everything, we managed to win Volkswagen and Audi as our clients. And then our agency grew very fast. We also opened an office in Shanghai. We did campaigns all over the world. And at some point, Apple decided that we don't need CDs anymore. So they weren't building hardware with CD support. So we had a problem. It's like, because that was more or less our business model. And we had an idea, okay, we can go with the technology and now use USB sticks. But unfortunately, they were much more expensive. And also the production was, took longer than, pressing CDs. So that didn't work out the way that we wanted. But then it was a little bit, we went to fair, the Mobile Congress, the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And there was a very small stand from a company called Metaio. And they were talking about augmented reality. So we talked with them, and that was fascinating. It's like, imagine how amazing it would be if we could use augmented reality for our clients like Volkswagen to do marketing. And then we started working with Metaio. We won over Volkswagen, so we started doing AR campaigns. And back in the day was this was 2010, 11. It was groundbreaking. Also the technology, so you could position your car in the living room or in front of your house, change the different colors of the car and the rims, and just see it live in front of you, or scan an ad when we're waiting for the bus or in a magazine, and then see the car in 3D. We loved it, as well as our client, but after a few years we saw that the engagement and the users weren't as expected. And I tried to understand why. So I started having interviews and understanding where is the problem, why aren't they, so amazed by the technology and the content as we were and our client. And I just realized, and afterwards, that we weren't really creating a value. It was more like a gimmick. And I think this is an issue for many implementations or projects or products in the space, because it's just a very interesting and gimmicky way to show information, but it's not necessarily the shortest way. This means, for example, if you want to see how a color, like the car could look in different colors, you already maybe have the catalog in front of you, or you can see at the dealership how the different colors look in real. It's not just a 3D rendering. We also have had an implementation with manual, where you could get into the car and scan the dashboard and have all the information. But we see that people rather would Google, is like, what does this button do, right? Instead of installing an app. And I was a little bit disappointed after the whole work that we put in, and also being on the creative side. And I was also, after 11 years of marketing, I was like, it's not really the space that I want to be in. And after I had a time off, like half a year, and was able to travel the world, came back and had this idea, is like, what would happen if we take this technology, strip it of everything which is technical, and make it like, a no-code solution for artists? How would they use the technology? How would they start telling narratives? And when I had this idea, I called my friend Codin, who's my co-founder, and it's like, I think I have something. I think it will be something that will have a lot of fun building. I'm not sure how far we'll be going with it, because it's still in arts and culture, but I think there is something about it. And I pitched him the idea. I can remember I visited him. We went to the pizzeria that was across of his house, and had like canned beer and chatting about the idea. And he was like, I understood like 50% of what you said, but you seem very, very, believer in the idea and the outcome. So let's try it. And this was end of 2016. So 2017, we started the idea and our road together. And here we are. After 6 years, we have a little bit more than a quarter of million of artists all around the world working with our platform.
That's amazing. And congratulations to for 6 years and over 250,000 users. That's amazing. And I love that you said that Flash was the first entry to the metaverse. I haven't heard that before, so I might borrow that.
Yeah, sure.
And you kind of explained the no code and the AR, but can you tell us more like what artists can do with Artivive in terms of like bringing their art alive and like how it actually functions? Because I know we'll put stuff on the website, but a lot of people will just be listening. So can you kind of help us visualize the experience?
Yes. It's a little bit hard. I always, as you can remember, I have my postcards and my business cards, which are some artworks, because this is the easiest way to showcase what we're doing. But I will try my best. So imagine how, the traditional art world, if we're looking at museums and galleries, would be connected with the digital art world, with NFTs, metaverse, animations, GIFs, artists that are just in the digital space. So what we're doing is we're trying to bring these two worlds together, and an artwork, which can be, again, something that's in a museum, in a gallery, but can be also street art, or can be a tattoo, or can be a sticker, or, can be a piece of fashion, can be extended with a digital story. So if you're looking through the phone for now, and we hope that the glasses will come, you can see this piece of art come to life with a digital narrative. That means, imagine that you have a poster that has a message, like, don't look here, for example, and then you scan it. And then this message is transforming to something else. The story is going further, or it's, shifting. Is like, thank you for looking. And you have somebody who's telling you a story. So I think the idea is that we want to bring artists to see themselves and work in both spaces, right? So a traditional artist that's maybe just a painter, it's focusing on painting, would also be able to show the process. So just a recording of how he's painting, and show how the painting is, made. So to give a different context to the person which is looking at the painting, or using a different digital storytelling behind it. So to enhance or to extend the artwork also in a digital space. And at the same time, imagine, a digital artist that can hang in a museum like MoMA without a screen, without a projection, to just be a painting or just be an illustration which is framed and on a wall. So I think this is like the bigger vision that we have. And how we managed to do this is that you have a platform, an editor where you can just upload an image, which can be it is the representation in the reality. We call it trigger. And then the digital extension, which can be literally anything from just sound, another image, a video or 3D model, a particle system, a text, whatever you want. You can just, connect these two parts, and then the artwork become one, which will have two representations, one in the haptic real world and one in the interactive digital world.
I love that you're bridging the virtual and the real world together for artists and making it super easy. I have one of the postcards, which I haven't shown my nephew yet, but I should already say thank you for making me look like a very cool aunt. It is really cool to see in person. I think how you explained it to us in Austria is like more or less you're taking the artwork and turning it into a QR code that the phones read, and then they come alive from that. It's very cool to see in person. It has like this very magic element to it.
For the podcast listeners, maybe it would work also to go on our Instagram. We're featuring there every day a new artist. It will be Artivive app is our handle. So just feel free maybe during listening to just see some of the artworks, then maybe it makes more sense what I just said.
Yeah, I'll be sure to include all of the links to everything in the dedicated episode post. Because the show is about how creatives are collaborating with AI, and I know you talked a lot about the AR, but I'm sure just on the back end tech side that AI plays a role in Artivive. So I'd love to hear where AI fits into what you do.
So we already use AI for some time now. So like you mentioned, the image becomes a QR code. We have an AI model behind it, which is recognizing the artwork, and then can deliver the content that it's linked to it and also track it. So we already have parts behind it where we have machine learning, learning how to find the right artwork or to link it to the right digital extension. And what we also see here, and the thing is the AI is now moving so fast. So I just realized, that 1 year ago about this time, we didn't have ChatGPT, right? So we had it, but, people weren't using it. It wasn't open for everybody. It was, version 2 or 1. And it exploded. And I just saw yesterday, I think Canva presented that Canva is magic now. You can do everything that you want with AI. You can just type in something, and then Canva will produce something for you, which is amazing at the same time. But in some cases, not exactly what you needed. And in the most discussions that we have with our creatives, we see that some are loving it, and then see the opportunities of how they can use it in their work. And others are a little bit afraid of, what is the value of what I'm creating? If anybody can, just type in something, and then they have something that's similar to where I'm working for weeks to create the quality and what I want. So in our case is we really want to understand what is the value of the technology. And yesterday I was listening to a presentation of Stefan Sackmeister. He's Austrian graphic designer living in the US. He did all the album covers for big bands in the US and all over the world. And he said something very interesting, which, I resonate with it. At some point, the creations that are coming with AI start to look very similar. And it's easier to recognize that it was created with an AI. And people, at the beginning are fascinated, but then start getting bored because there's somehow something missing. And he was comparing it with Photoshop. So he studied graphic design in the 80s. So he went through all the technologies that came and said, when Photoshop came out, everybody was like, oh, this is amazing, and how easy it is. And then after a few months, everybody had the same effects, the same designs, the same type of layout, which were based also on the limitations on what Photoshop could at that time. So I think it's how our approach is like, how can we build tools that are using AI to help our artists tell the story that they want to tell? And I think a great example is, how this tool, which was called Remove Background, I think it's still out there, came out, and you just had to put an image in and say, remove background, and with AI, they could identify what the background was, and it was removed in minutes. It's a work that nobody loves, and AI does it in 5 seconds instead of minutes or half an hour if you do it by hand. So I think our approach in this way is like, how can we find tools to help the creatives create the digital content that they want to tell the story that they want to, without necessarily, to emphasize AI. It's like to just use AI because it's out there and everybody is talking about it. But maybe there is another technology that makes sense. So, for example, we have now launched 2 new features. One is where we have particle systems, something that it's out there for many years.
And for those who don't know particle systems, can you tell us what they are? Because I don't know what they are, so I'm assuming some of my listeners won't know either.
Sorry, I'm so deep in it, and it's very interesting because when we launched it, we internally we were talking about particle systems, but we changed the name into effects. So what you can imagine is like you can create how should I describe it the best? Like a point cloud, like a points that can have different shapes and behave in different ways. Sounds very technical, but it's extremely easy. So, for example, you can create fire, rain, clouds, smoke, whatever you feel, that it has very many small items, and then you can just create it in a few clicks. So we added this a few weeks ago, and we see how much it adds, to some of the artists that they just want to add a little bit of a backstory or a little bit of a feeling to the artwork, and it's enough if you just put a little bit of rain, and then you have a totally different feeling to the content that you're looking at. So yes, that's not necessarily something that it's built with AI, but maybe in the next version we'll have something that it has some AI elements to make it a little bit faster or to go in a different direction that will help the artists to create different content. We also added another feature, I think last week, with 3D audio. So you can, position audio elements, and if you're going closer, you start hearing it. If you're going a little bit farther away, it's out of your hearing spectrum. So I think the same approach, like with these features, we will have with AI to see, okay, what's out there, how can we add value, also based on the feedback that we get from the community in helping telling the story. Because at the end, it's nobody really cares if it's augmented reality, if it was done with AI or not. They're catched by the story, by the approach. And I think this is something that is more sustainable, and is what we learned during the last 6 years. Because at the beginning, when we started with the first projects, we had a lot of 3D objects, connected to artworks in the room. And we saw that many people going to the gallery or museum were struggling to understand what's happening. Like, this is interesting. It's like a 3D thing, but I don't understand the story. I don't understand what it's trying to tell me. But when we started using, formats that they already knew, audio, video, GIFs, they were much more interested in experiencing the technology, because they weren't caring about the technology anymore. They tried to understand the story behind it.
Yeah, I love that. I think anytime that the technology is front and center, it actually takes away. Like it's the magic of the experience that you shouldn't even feel the technology to understand it. And I love what you said about adding value and not being gimmicky either, because there's so many gimmicky things. Like here in Cincinnati, where I'm headquartered, I think there was a bar with like an AI, I don't know, monkey machine or something, but it was just like totally gimmick pounce on the trend. But you did mention that some art museums are using Artivive to bring the artworks alive. So I'd love to hear some of those use cases and how museums are using this, and the reaction from those who are interacting with the art pieces.
So we have different projects and approaches. We try to help our community and the artists to get in touch with these institutions and work together, because also for the museums it's important to activate the local community, and the easiest way is to work with living artists from the community, because they also understand a little bit better the holistic representation of the museum with the collection that they have, and also with the people that are coming to the museum. But I have a few examples. For example, we did a project with the Belvedere Museum in Vienna. I don't know if you had the chance to visit it before you left Vienna, but they have an amazing collection from Egon Schiele. And interesting enough, there are some paintings that have unbelievable story behind it, which everybody who works at the museum knows the story, but it's very hard to tell the story to somebody who's maybe coming the first time to Vienna and to the museum. So I have, we have an example from a painting that Schiele had to overpaint, because when he presented the first version of it to the director of the museum at the time, the director said, unfortunately, the lady who's depicted in the painting is dressed too poorly to match the collection that he had. And the lady in the painting was actually Schiele's wife. So, and she was dressed poorly because they were poor. So, what he did was went back to his studio and overpainted the painting with a different dress. So it matched more the vision that the museum director had at that time, to be able to sell the artwork. And now we have this artwork in the museum with the vision, or the final version that wasn't as intended by the artist. And what we managed to do was, through the research that the museum did and the colleagues there, we were able, together with them, to recreate the first version and how it looked like. And we were able to use augmented reality to show the first version on the original, so that people can see the difference and also understand the story at the same time. And funny enough, if you're looking very close to the painting that we have today, with the backstory and also knowing how the dress looked before, you can see some of the details beneath the version that you have today. And I think this is the most valuable experience that people would take with them, because only this story is telling so much about the artist, the time that he lived in, about the museum, the building that they are in, how old it is, that the director of that gallery was able to buy from the living artist that died 100 years ago, and also to recognize on the original the first version of the painting and understand how this painting come to be what it is. And this is like an experience that's very hard also to talk about it if you don't have the images. And this was a problem also for the tour guides that were in the museum to explain the to the visitors and also for the artists or historians. So we managed through the technology to tell this story in 30 seconds and catch the attention and also give people that are in the museum also something that they can take with them, because the visit to the museum becomes then an experience. And from the feedback that we received from most people visiting the museum, and I was very surprised to see that there were also people that weren't so tech savvy or maybe also a bit older, they were fascinated and saying, this is amazing, I didn't know. And if you really look closer, you can see then the bits of the original color which is beneath. And I think this is again what we talked about before on creating something that is sustainable and it's not about the technology.
That's so cool. Well, next time I go to Vienna, I'll definitely have to go. And I love the immersive storytelling part, because this is just what I get excited about, like new forms of expression and storytelling, and kind of how you were describing that. I was thinking sometimes at museums, I'll go to like Wikipedia pages and get like the backstory, and you go down these rabbit holes, but you're bringing it all together in one 30-second immersive storytelling clip in a compelling way. So I think that's just so neat and fascinating. In addition to the museum case study, I'd love to hear maybe some stories about independent artists and how they're using the platform too, because you make it really, really easy for any artist to be, you're almost like the Canva of AI, of AR for bringing artworks alive, because it's so easy to use. So I'd love to hear some stories or use cases from independent artists as well.
Thank you. Yes, it's hard also, to know what everybody's doing. I'm trying to get into, in touch with so many artists as possible, because we have this amazing community. But I think I have a great example. So two examples that moved me personally were, on one hand, the traditional artist who's doing a landscape. So he's painting landscapes, and he's doing very well and sells wonderfully in the UK. And I had a call with him, and he told me, it's like, I'm so happy that I found you because I'm putting so much passion and I have so much joy creating these paintings. And when I'm done with the painting, I'm not really interested in that anymore. And I see people that are buying this result and putting it on the wall without knowing how much joy I had. So he came with the idea. I think he's like 80, so he's using the computer for emails and for Artivive. Funny enough, so he came with the idea. He had like an older digital camera, just put it on a tripod to create a time lapse, and said, I just let it run so people can see from the first stroke to the last one, how the colors came and how much time I put in the details, and how I'm satisfied with the process and when the artwork is finished, and people can see this. So I can show them for every artwork that they're buying how it was made, and how much work it is inside, and how much joy I had with it. And that made him happier, to tell this story in a way which people also can understand, and also that they can rewatch it and they can also share it with other people. So when somebody's coming and visiting and seeing the artwork, they can also share the experience on how the artwork was made. And I think it's like, this is so touching, because it is so true, because if you're seeing an artwork, you just see the end result and you don't see the process. And sometimes the process is so interesting, and it takes so much time into artists putting into the detail, and you have a totally different relationship with the artist, with the artwork, if you see how it was made, and you can maybe see some details that maybe are hidden if you wouldn't see the whole process.
It goes back to the story and knowing, and this is one reason why I love getting to interview the artist, is getting into the process, the creative process, and the mind that went into the art. And you totally have a different appreciation for art. You can appreciate art at face value, but I know I get so much more out of it with the context and understanding the artist's story. So I love that you bring this alive in such a rich, immersive way.
That's a very valid point, because for visual art, on one part is the visual aspect, obviously, but you're deciding on buying an artwork because of the story, because of the artist, because of what it's representing. And it's much easier to tell this story if you have a digital, extension, or you can connect it to a digital, storytelling tool, I would say, because then you can, relate much easier. And then it's becoming emotional, and then it's not just an artwork, but it's a story. It's an experience. And because I was saying at the beginning that I want to highlight two stories. The second one was from the other side. So a digital artist who has a lot of success with NFTs and also selling his digital art had a first real, or in a gallery exhibition without screens with Artivive. It was a part of a group exhibition, and we launched it in Vienna, and we had amazing feedback. And at the end, obviously people could also buy the NFTs and also get the print, so that they have the whole experience again. So they could, hang the NFT at home and through the phone bring it to life, so they didn't have to invest a lot on screens or having screens that are running the whole time. And at the end, we still had some artworks, and the artist came to me and said, is it okay if I take one of my artworks home? Because I want to show my parents what I'm doing. So he was already successful, and living out of the work that he's doing. But he wanted to take something that he can hold in his hands and go proudly home to show to his parents what he's actually creating. So, the whole story with NFTs that we'll not get into it, but still having something in hand, having something that you can, put on the wall, something that it's there and you can see it also without electricity, has a different meaning for us.
I love that. And I've, been in digital media for over 14 years. And it is funny of what do I produce? It's all in pixels, and you're missing the haptic of this is what I've done with my career. So I love that you're kind of bringing digital artists back into tactile artwork as well. Well, and I guess just, you mentioned NFTs, which, we'll save that for another episode. And one thing that I would love to hear from you, just because you are so much at the cutting edge of where art and AR currently is, and immersive storytelling and extended reality. I'm really curious, just from the seat that you're sitting at, where do you see what's next? You mentioned for your product, goggles. I'm super curious what the Apple Vision Pro will do to kickstart back the conversations about extended reality and maybe revive some of the metaverse hype without, using the words metaverse. But what's next? I feel like you're in such an interesting seat to sit to kind of, and you've been on so many trends from Flash websites to CDs and now AR. Where is art and technology going next?
I think art is always a mirror of the society. So, right, we'll always use what's close to us, and then also part of the culture. And we see that the technology is moving very fast. And I think what Apple is doing right is they're not talking so much about the technology and trying to give it, names, because people still have a hard time to understand, the whole digital space and, what's digital, what's real. And I think another good example is on, how complex Google Maps works on the phone. So you want to get from A to B, and Google Maps will help you to, find the best way of transportation, if it's, with a car or with a bike or public transportation. And you also got you fastest there. From the moment that you want, you put in the address, and to the moment that you arrive there, you don't think about the technologies that were used. You just want, to get there. And maybe when you got there, you also forgot that you used Google Maps. So I think this is how we should and will interact with technology in the future. People will not really care if it's something that they put on their face or if it's just the smartphone, right? They will go for the experience. And what I like about Apple is they showed cases where it makes a lot of sense, right? So if you're at home and want to watch a movie alone, and this is a very important part because for these headsets, it's something that they're meant to be experienced alone. You can, make your TV bigger, or maybe you don't need a TV screen at home anymore if you have the glasses. If you want to work on an airplane and you don't want anybody to see into your laptop and you don't also have the space for it, you can use the goggles again. If you're working from the office and you need more screens because you have a lot of ideas and pinwalls and everything is digital, you can use the glasses again. And I think that's the most important part because people will not care that they're using the glasses. They will just, use it because it's private, because it's, saving space and they don't have to take the laptop with them, or they can use it in working environment that they're getting a little bit, better and faster to the result that they were searching for. So I think this is where we will go based on the hardware and software that will be developed. And I think it's also very important that, for the companies and for the projects coming out there, they're focusing on the value that they're creating and not on the resolution and the number of sensors and how light or heavy it is, but just on how will it make our life better. And at the same time, when we have these gadgets, art will adapt, coming back to the idea that, it's a mirror of our society. At the same time, it will talk about the problems, the good and the bad things in our life, and then the creatives will use these tools as well. So I'm curious myself to see where the road goes. I think with the glasses from the Google glasses, which were in 2014, we hear is like next year. But next year we'll be there. Next year everybody will use it. And this is for 10 years now. And I think that's the biggest problem because we didn't really find the value where glasses will change totally the way how we interact with content compared to the smartphone or to the laptop or to the different devices that we have.
Yeah, I find it so fascinating if you look back at the rocket growth of Facebook. Like, what actually was the biggest thing that catapulted Facebook was the ability to tag your friends in photos and making photos a social experience. Like that was the big thing and such a simple idea. And then fast forward to ChatGPT, it's natural language and just the ease and use of interacting with it with natural language. And, they're both free and not huge expense and the accessibility of it. So I'll really be interested in the accessibility of the hardware and the devices, and like what's that simple thing that they tap into. Because I think the more simple, the better the adoption is of the tech as well.
Exactly. That's very important. So people shouldn't, again, think about the technology. Also with ChatGPT, they're not thinking, that they're, talking to an AI, they just want an answer. And it's easier than maybe Googling it. And the same thing is with Facebook. They just wanted to show where they are and how cool they are and how, they're all friends together with the tagging and with the liking. And that's, human behavior. And they weren't really thinking about how much data they're sharing, where the pictures are going. They just wanted to have the value and experience.
Yeah, and I will say with Google Maps, I don't know if it's rolled out everywhere, But for as much as I travel, my sense of direction is absolutely horrible. And I'll go in, friends joke when I travel, like any direction I want to go, we go the exact opposite and that will be the right one. But with Google Maps, if you're walking on the street and put up the phone, it will literally, instead of the blue dot, which I still can get lost with the blue dot telling you where to go, it will literally, if you put the phone up to your face and point the camera using maps, it will have arrows of like, walk this way. And I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. And it's the utility of it and the ease of use also is such like a great onboarding tool, at least for Google Maps and AR. So if you haven't tried that yet, I encourage people to.
I tried, and it's amazing because it shows you the direction, right? And you can also see in which direction something is positioned or you have to walk. And again, it's like people don't care that it's AR. It's like the camera just helps you to see where you're at and which direction you should go.
If it keeps me in the right direction, it can keep anyone in the right direction. Well, before we sign off, you have a couple upcoming events that you'll be at and your own virtual conference. So tell us about some of the things that you have in the pipeline.
My pleasure. So we first will be now in October the EWE, which is the Augmented World Expo, for the first time in Vienna. It's like a fair and conference that is around 15 years, if not longer. And we're more than happy that it's in our hometown. We'll also have a playground there. I will also have a keynote. So whoever is in town and will join, ping me. I'm more than happy to drink a coffee and see you there. And we also have a hybrid, more online summit coming beginning of November on the 7th, 8th, and 9th, where we'll talk about augmented reality art from all sides on how to make money, how to tell stories with it. We have people from Disney joining. We have people that are Emmy Award winners. We have people from Harvard. So join us. It will be an amazing 3-day full of talks, panels, inspiration, and also a great way to network.
Fantastic. And I'll be sure to put all the links to all of this again in the dedicated episode blog post. If you want our viewers and listeners to remember one thing from today's conversation, what would you like that one thing to be?
I would maybe ask a question, and this is a question that we are somewhat trying to answer, or we think that we have the answer. But still, is every century has its own art form, and last century we had photography and film, the first century where technology started to become an art form. And my question is, what will be the art form of the 21st century?
I love that question. I feel like that could actually catapult a whole nother episode to dive into that. But I know we're a little bit at time. So Sergiu, it has been so wonderful to have you on the show, and we'll definitely bring you back so that we can dive more into that, because you've got me all excited and we have to sign off.
Helen, thank you so much. It was so much fun. I don't know how the time flew so fast. I hope, that it was for everybody enjoyable, and looking forward to the next episode.
Thank you for spending some time with us today. We're just getting started and would love your support. Subscribe to Creativity Squared on your preferred podcast platform and leave a review. It really helps. And I'd love to hear your feedback. What topics are you thinking about and want to dive into more? I invite you to visit creativitysquared.com to let me know. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter so you can easily stay on top of all the latest news at the intersection of AI and creativity. Because it's so important to support artists, 10% of all revenue Creativity Squared generates will go to ArtsWave, a nationally recognized nonprofit that supports over 100 arts organizations. Become a premium newsletter subscriber or leave a tip on the website to support this project and ArtsWave. And premium newsletter subscribers will receive NFTs of episode cover art and more extras to say thank you for helping bring my dream to life. And a big, big thank you to everyone who's offered their time, energy, and encouragement and support so far. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This show is produced and made possible by the team at Play Audio Agency. Until next week, keep creating.